it's hurtful because of this holiday and how many people lives were given for this holiday to exist. To see lives taken this way, to see this happening after such a wonderful day yesterday with the opening of the library and everything, and to have a night like this with just shooting and mayhem and tragedy.
Obviously, today we are still continuing our efforts as we will remain focused on building the safest, most affordable big city in America. Last night was another reminder of how much work we still have to do to the lives who have been impacted by gun violence. Know that my administration is working overtime, not only to hold people accountable to remove illegal guns off the streets of the city of Chicago, working with our superintendent, our CVI, and all of our partners coming together to make sure that nights like last night do not become a regular part of our pattern. With the progress that we are making, we are obviously still very much determined to protect the lives of this city. It's the top priority that I have. We're not going to tolerate the senseless acts of violence, and we're going to continue to ensure that we make the critical investments to not just hold people accountable, but to make sure that we're preventing these acts of violence from ever occurring.
Because violence is a moral issue. It's the life and death of our children, and in reality, it's the life and the death and the health of our communities. Violence has been down in Chicago, but that's not a norm. It's new. It's good news, but it's new news. Violence was up last month, and we look at this last weekend to see the violence that took place in this city. It is vulnerable, and so it must be addressed in a very continuous effort, which is why we need a gun violence office that goes from administration to administration, that oversees, that coordinates, that holds people accountable, and that it goes to good strategies throughout the city so we can have this violence not become just an exception, but a norm for Chicago.
I am deeply concerned to make sure that we're keeping the people of Illinois safe. We've had some terrible tragedies that have occurred. It's why I have asked for help from the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, because going after guns and drugs and gangs is something that concerns me, just like it does local residents who are affected by those factors.
Tragedies like this highlights the need for sustained investment in violence prevention, victim services, trauma-informed care, and community-led solutions that allow residents to gather safely without the fear of gun violence.
You know, often news stories about these events give the number of people who have been shot or the number of people who have been killed. What's often missing from those reports is the incredible outpouring of support that happens immediately after these tragic events. I'm not talking about the next day, the next morning, or even the next evening. What really happens is that night people start coming out to support not only the victims, but the community as a whole. I would like to take a moment and really acknowledge Kenyatta Smith, Pastor Kenyatta Smith from the Another Chance Church. I would also like to thank Pastor Donovan Price, who comes out each and every time to support those victims. In addition to that, I would also like to acknowledge Arnie Duncan from CRED, who also comes out and supports it not only with his team, but also he himself comes out and supports them. It's also really important to acknowledge those police officers. You see the lights and sirens, you see our response, but what you often don't see is the life-saving aid they provide to those victims, and they did so in this incident immediately thereafter. It's not just the investigation, it's not just holding those responsible, but really helping those who have suffered from these tragic events.
I want to reiterate the importance of these programs that's out throughout the city of Chicago, and how important it is for us to come together, because like I say, I'm from this area, Chicago Heights, and it has done wonders for my community. We have seen the reduction in violence. So I want to say thank you to all the people that are in office, lawmakers, that continue to push for us to have the necessary resources to keep these things going.
Too often, we talk about gun violence, the conversation solely talks about those who are shot. But women and girls experience gun violence every single day as survivors, as witnesses, as caregivers, as family members who are left to pick up the pieces. They carry the trauma, the grief, the responsibility of helping families and communities heal. At Focus Fairies, we work with girls who have lost loved ones to gun violence and girls who are navigating the reentry and involvement in the juvenile justice system. We see firsthand how violence impacts their mental health, their educational outcomes, the sense of safety, the future opportunities. This is exactly why this department is needed. A Department of Gun Violence Reduction will create accountability, coordination, and long-term, I'm gonna say it again, long-term investment in prevention, intervention, healing, and community-based solutions.
You know, again, I want to acknowledge, again, the incredible harm and trauma that gun violence has promulgated, not just throughout the city of Chicago, but throughout our country. It is incredibly disappointing and disheartening that the President of the United States of America has worked overtime to defund the very institutions that can keep people safe. From $800 million that he has taken away from violence prevention, $800 million that he placed in the pockets of big corporations and the ultra-rich at the expense of our overall safety. Again, reducing the ATF budget by 30%, the entity of government that we work with at the federal level to remove illegal weapons off the streets of Chicago. Now, we know that there are at least 13 states across the country that has an office that is dedicated to reducing gun violence. The Biden administration established the first of its kind at the federal level. What I have said and what I will continue to say is that I think it's incumbent upon all of us to find ways in which we can work together to reduce violence as a whole, but gun violence particularly. I'm prepared to talk more about, this particular call to action later this week. But as you know, this particular advocacy group has been calling for such an office to exist through multiple administrations, and we're going to continue to hear how the work that we're doing to drive violence down can work in coordination with the vision that this organization and organizing apparatus has.